Welcome, campers.
That's Genevieve.
And that's Caitlin.
And we have an absolutely wild case for you today that we honestly can't believe we'd never heard of before. And it happened just a stone throws from where we live. So close, in fact, that we personally know folks who still have memories of when the double murder of two high school sweethearts, Michael Morrison and Debra Means, on their own prom night in May 1969, destroyed forever the innocence of the small, quiet town of Mascoutah, Illinois.
In researching this two-parter episode case, we relied heavily on local newspaper articles, but most importantly, on a fantastic memoir written by Michael Morrison's own younger brother, Ed Morrison, who not only endured the unthinkable nightmare of losing his older brother, but went on to write an in-depth book chronicling his nearly 50-year journey to not only understand the truth of what happened, but why, on that fateful summer night in May 1969. Lights out, campers.
Oh man, the mountains called my number and one. I'm just a life-size lottery ticket in the hand of the one.
On May 7th, 1969, a state trooper rapped his knuckles on the window of the car he'd just pulled over for speeding, coming from the direction of East St. Louis. When the window rolled down, a teenage boy who was visibly shaken told the officer he'd been speeding because he was distracted, and was distracted because he was so rattled by what he'd read in the paper that morning. The bodies of two teenagers had been found brutally murdered after they'd never came home from the Mascoutah High School prom. And quote, he may know a connection with the murders.
It's also very telling of the era that he was rattled by what he read in the paper that morning, and he was 18. An 18-year-old would never say that today.
We'd be shook seeing the headline on
shook at what I saw
Insta.
on TikTok. Yeah.
Hashtag dead.
Hashtag death. At police headquarters, the 18-year-old named Bob Shea told the following horrifying story to a room full of curious officers. On April 25th, barely 2 weeks prior, he had been at a dance in the small town of Breeze, Illinois. The girl he had gone to the dance with was anxious because her car had been giving her trouble, so they left the dance a bit earlier than normal, around 10 p.m. As they were just heading out of town, they saw car headlights flashing off and on over and over just behind them. Bob thought it was a police officer, so he pulled off into what he thought was a driveway, but it wasn't. It was a dead end. And before y'all start thinking, Bob, how could you possibly confuse a driveway with a dead-end road? Remember, this is rural farm country, and driveways are often short, like gravel or dirt roads that go on for a little ways, then open up in front of a farmhouse. So this being a driveway wouldn't be unusual at all.
Once Bob and his date came to the dead end, the car that was behind them pulled right up to their bumper so that they couldn't back out.
Nope.
A man stepped out of the car and approached Bob's window, pointing a gun directly at them. He had ordered Bob to shut off the car and hand him the keys, then directed Bob to lie down in the trunk and locked him inside it. From the darkness of the trunk, a terrified Bob heard a muffled yell and felt the car shaking. After a few minutes, the man took Bob out of the trunk and led him around to the other side of the car. He opened Bob's wallet, took $5 out of it, then handed it back to him. Then took and kept the entire wallet of the girl Bob was with.
So that was not a ticket writing protocol, I'm going to assume.
I want to guess not. I mean, I know it was 69, but I don't think the ways have changed that much.
No, just walking straight up with the gun pointed directly into the window.
License and registrations, please.
Oh my God. Holding the terrified teenagers at gunpoint, the stranger then ordered Bob to strip completely naked and gave them instructions to perform sex acts on one another while he took photographs. Bob later told police that he and the girl had done everything the stranger had told them without any resistance, saying, quote, "The only thing that kept us alive was following his orders." When an officer asked Bob, "If you saw this person again, do you believe you'd be able to identify him?" Bob said without hesitation, "Yes, sir."
4 days earlier, Mascoutah High School was gearing up for its biggest night of the year, prom. This year's theme was Moonlight and Roses, and the girls of the junior class had spent weeks making hundreds of paper roses for a photo archway, and had constructed a giant moon out of a cage ball and aluminum foil to hang from the ceiling and reflect the glow of blue spotlights. It was 1969, so powdered blue tuxedo jackets, floor-length pastel gowns, and white elbow gloves were the must-have formal attire. A senior named Michael Morrison, who went by Mike, worked a shift at his after-school job bagging groceries before coming home to put on his tuxedo and head out to pick up his girlfriend, a spunky and beautiful sophomore named Debra Means, who went by Debbie.
Mike and Debbie were the epitome of an it couple. They both had these almost magnetic personalities that drew people to them and to each other. They met in the summer of 1968, when Debbie was a freshman and Mike was a junior, and it was Debbie who had first noticed Mike, who occasionally went on dates with girls but was much too preoccupied with school and sports to have a serious girlfriend. But Debbie would soon change that when she thought Mike was cute and pressed his little sister Cecilia to introduce them. One afternoon, when they were walking around on the base where Debbie lived and Mike worked at the base commissary, Cecilia saw Mike across a parking lot and pointed him out to Debbie. Debbie apparently started singing out his name loud enough to get his attention, and when he yelled, "What?" Debbie clutched her hands to her chest and pretended to be mortified that Mike was yelling at her. Then the three of them went to a nearby bowling alley, and the rest was history. In Mike's senior yearbook, Debbie wrote, "The best thing that ever happened to me was meeting you."
Mike and Debbie were both strong-willed and stubborn, and were one of those couples that were quick to argue but just as quick to make up. Mike took his grades incredibly seriously and was getting ready to graduate as co-valedictorian with several college academic scholarships. He was also a varsity athlete who played football and basketball and had committed to playing football for Southern Illinois University Carbondale. Again, weird because that's where my sister went.
Oh,
it's so
okay.
weird.
Yeah, that is super weird.
Ugh. He had a very tight group of guy friends who called themselves the Love Brothers.
The Love Brothers.
Gosh, boys are fucking weird.
They are super weird.
And he was adored by his 4 younger siblings. He was tall and handsome, hardworking, and super book smart, but his brother Eddie and his friends would often tease him that when it came to common sense, he was a bit lacking. And sometimes found basic tasks around the house to be a challenge.
That's hilarious. I can just see that now.
Oh, yeah.
Mom, I need to iron my shirt, and she'd be like, the ironing board
It's
is
literally right
over there.
there.
Be like, how do I open it? You literally just pull the legs open. How do I turn on the iron? And she'd be like,
Plug it in,
for
babe.
fuck's sake, like, just let
Get
me
out
do
of my
it.
way.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. But to his credit, he also knew how to have fun. And he and his friends apparently got the guys at Mascoutah High School to participate in something they called Fat Legger Day.
Fat Legger Day? Fat Legger Day.
Which was their way of pushing back against the dress code that said students couldn't wear bell-bottom jeans by going to a secondhand store and purchasing huge pairs of wide-leg trousers that were the exact same kind the school admins would have worn when they were their age, as a way to point out how ridiculous the quote-unquote no bell-bottoms dress code was. Apparently, this drove the principal crazy.
That's fantastic.
What in the hell?
That's hilarious. Fat Legger Day. I'm
Bell-bottoms.
just gonna call that, but like every day is Fat Legger Day when you have a thick booty and legs. Fat Legger Day. That's amazing.
Bumper sticker.
The Morrison children grew up being each other's best friends, while the family moved quite literally all over the world, wherever their father was stationed as a chief master sergeant in the Air Force. Mike respected his dad very much, and his dad was extremely proud of Mike's grades and his athletic achievements. But at the same time, he put an immense amount of pressure on Mike and his siblings to perform. He was an incredibly strict and hard-edged disciplinarian, with the classic my way or the highway, if you don't like it, get out attitude. Whenever he was displeased with his kids, his anger was swift and severe. We could spend an entire episode discussing the Morrison family dynamics, and we highly recommend you check out Eddie Morrison's memoir, Bad Moon Rising, for an in-depth look at Mike's childhood. But we think it provides a pretty clear picture of the vibes of Sergeant Morrison, that he would routinely beat Mike and his brother Eddie with a belt if they so much as made a sound during Catholic Mass. And he would refer to his wife, not by her name of Anne, no. Apparently, he would call her woman and say things like, "Woman, iron my shirt. Woman, bring me my shoes." One time, he even slammed his son Eddie, Mike's little brother, into a wall because he didn't get up from the living room sofa to get ready for bed fast enough to his liking. But of course, this level of brutal, air quotes, discipline that we would certainly call abusive today was written off as just being a different time. Can't say I'm a huge fan of Chief Sergeant Morrison.
I even get offended when people just don't name their dog,
Yeah.
come here.
It's
Cat, come here.
It's very dehumanizing. Like that is your wife and the mother of your children. That is, yeah, that's not okay.
Fortunately, Mike's mom, Anne Morrison, very much balanced out their father's authoritarian ways by being a kind and calm presence who embraced and welcomed everyone. And the air in the Morrisons' little home in Mascoutah, Illinois, was much easier to breathe when Sergeant Morrison would be away for several months at a time on deployment.
No shit.
I can see why.
Because the 12-year-olds aren't having to worry about having their head slammed into a wall.
Anne had a profound and unwavering faith that everyone who knew her admired, but she also knew how to ease tension with humor. A perfect example of this was once when Mike and his brother Eddie were fighting. Anne would grab her bottle of holy water that was always in the house and would flick it on them while they ran around trying to dodge her, and she would say, "That'll get the devil out of you." Soon, they would all be cracking up, and whatever they'd been fighting about would be forgotten. Whenever Sergeant Morrison was home, she would encourage Mike and his siblings to just go along and get along. And she would do the same, despite her husband's constant verbal belittling and berating, determined to keep their home as peaceful as possible.
She sounds like, again, very much that classic mom, wife of her time that was put your head down, do what you have to do.
Yep.
And apparently in the memoir that Eddie wrote, things when Sergeant Morrison was home would sometimes get so bad that with him verbally abusing her, that one time Eddie actually confronted his mom and said, "Why don't you just divorce Dad?" And even though she was a devout Catholic, and for a devout Catholic, divorce is like, marriage is a sacrament. Yeah, it's not an option. She said, "I have thought about it, but where would I go?" And that just broke my heart because she would have had no other options because of the role that she was locked into, the time that, it was just like, But
I would
yet,
imagine she stayed for her kids.
oh my gosh, yes. And I have no doubt that her children turned out to be who they were because she was the one who was in their life most of the time. And I guarantee you, when Chief Sergeant Morrison was away, that their home, like,
Felt
they were
like a
fighting.
home.
Yes, and that they were fighting much less, and it was much less tense because they weren't walking on eggshells all the time.
Exactly.
And yeah.
Ugh.
But people, and there's something to be said for, like, I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, but that kind of family dynamic is very interesting to me because there was a time when that was kind of upheld as the ideal, to have that type of father that you basically lived in fear of, but that was highly respected by everybody who knew him, which their dad was, because he was an
Right.
incredibly highly ranked officer, like very straight edge,
And in the military and in some jobs you need that,
Yeah.
but your family is not
Yeah.
a job.
You've got to be able to put it at the door.
Your children are not your
Yeah.
soldiers.
Yeah. Exactly.
Your wife is not your, I'm not to say he was abusive, but not your punching
Yeah.
bag verbally. Or,
Right. Your servant. Yeah.
Ugh.
And putting that immense amount of pressure on kids to perform because they're afraid of you or because they're trying to live up to some sort of impossible standard, that doesn't do anything but backfire in the long run.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Caitlin
Yes,
looked like
it
she had a
does.
personal anecdote to give.
I'll save it.
But yes.
But just know, you don't demand respect.
Yes.
You earn it. And
Yeah.
that goes out to my military father. Love you. Remember that.
Yes. Now we need to talk about Debbie Means, who seemed to have achieved a level of cool at age 15 that most of us still haven't in our 20s and likely never will. She wasn't interested in being a cheerleader, or as they called them in the 60s, a pom-pom girl. She was always super on point with fashion trends and rock music, and actually helped design and build the sets for high school plays. She was also an amazing piano player and singer, and she and her friends loved listening to records together and scaring the shit out of themselves with Ouija boards at slumber parties.
Nope.
In Debbie's front yard, there was a massive sprawling tree with huge limbs, and that was her favorite place to hang out with her friends. They literally called it the hangout tree. She always went to her little brother's baseball games, and according to her friends, Debbie was gorgeous, spunky, and playful, and everyone wanted to be like her. But most importantly, she did not tolerate bullies. One time, she and her friends were out walking around their neighborhood, and there was a boy weaving his bicycle back and forth in front of their path in a menacing manner. Debbie had enough, reached out, grabbed his handlebars, and deposited him onto the ground. Yes, Debbie. And Caitlin, this next little bit about
gosh.
Debbie, I was just like, man, if there was any doubt that Debbie is our people, like, no doubt in my mind anymore after this. And I know we like to toss around F-bombs these days, like birdseed at a wedding. I'm proud of that one. I came up with
Say that's a quote I want on my wall.
F-bombs like birdseed at a wedding. And during this time in the 60s, the F word was super taboo and rarely used by high schoolers. But apparently one day Debbie and a friend of hers named Barb, who I immediately picture as
Stranger Things.
the only Barb, Stranger Things Barb, they were talking about this shitty little boy in their class, and Debbie, while sipping whiskey out of a Coca-Cola can, also
Right there is my
baller points,
like our people.
yes, sipping whiskey out of a Coca-Cola can, called him a fucker. And Barb was so shocked that she used the F word, she just couldn't even speak.
By golly.
Debbie!
And like, it's even funnier, like, imagining it because her picture of her and her, like, pretty little flipped out hair, and she truly was beautiful.
Oh, yeah, the picture of
Just
Debbie.
drinking
Yes.
whiskey and fuck her.
Fuck her.
Meanwhile, it kind of makes sense because
I'm sure
I
he
do look
deserved
like a
it.
sewer rat every now and then, and it's more appropriate for fucker to come out of my mouth.
Oh,
But
it's always great when it comes out of somebody that looks unassuming. Yep.
it's like fun. I don't know.
But Debbie and Mike, they seemed fucking cool.
They kind of, like it said, power couple.
Yes.
Very well rounded.
But not like the obnoxious power couple.
Yeah.
Like genuinely cool people.
Like, no, I'm just not gonna shit talk people. I'm just gonna continue. Won't put myself under that bus.
Okay.
On Saturday, May 3rd, 1969, prom night, Mike left his commissary job at around 5:30 p.m., ran home, and threw on his tuxedo. I wish it was that fucking easy for us girls.
I know. I've never thrown anything on in my life unless it was a frown on my face.
That's just permanently on mine.
Yes.
And drove off in their family's 1963 Plymouth Belvedere. I think it's
Belvedere. Plymouth Belvedere.
Never heard of that.
Me neither.
To pick up Debbie from her house on Scott Air Force Base, with his record player still churning out his favorite song from Creedence Clearwater Revival. Quote, "Don't go around tonight. It's bound to take your life. There's a bad moon on the rise." Great song.
Great song.
Very ominous.
Fucking dark foreshadowing.
Mike's brother Eddie was there too with his own date, but the brothers avoided speaking to each other at the dance after getting into a knockdown drag-out fight the previous day when his little brother Eddie had caught him wearing a brand new t-shirt that he just bought.
Listen, I feel that in my soul.
I feel like that's like a sister's thing.
I know.
Interesting.
That's hilarious because in our souls we feel that having
100%.
sisters, but I cannot imagine like Josh and Jacob or like Josh and Jacob like any of them getting in a fight over a piece of clothing. Like
No.
they don't even know what clothing is theirs half the time.
Girl,
like Josh has tried to put
the
on
head goes through one hole, arms go out the other.
like Josh has tried to put on a pair of my fucking shorts before. Like
I got that picture.
and I had to put a star over certain areas because
Oh gosh.
let's just say they would not have passed school dress code in this. Maybe what year? No, it was the 60s and 70s when denim shorts for men got like
Well, even the basketball,
incredibly
like the
short.
athletic shorts were like the Sophie shorts that were popular for like us.
Yes. I
Ugh.
like a little bit of men's short
Look,
above the
let me
knee.
tell you that 5-inch seam.
Yeah. Caitlin is salivating. But it's got to be just at the right spot. Like,
Yeah.
you don't want anything possibly flopping out, but you also need to avoid that skateboarder
Bermuda
flat shoes,
shorts are
Bermuda,
out. Ugh.
like ratty Bermuda shorts with the like tearing on the
They
bottom.
just give me Jacob Black from Twilight vibes.
Did he wear those?
Yeah, he wore like cut off jeans. And
Oh
they were
yeah.
ugly as
Oh,
fuck.
you're right. Because his clothes were always exploding off of him whenever he turned into a werewolf.
I mean, if all men could do that, I'd be okay with Bermuda shorts, but
But no,
no.
certainly not.
So yeah, they were fighting over Eddie
shirt.
stealing Mike's new shirt. Interesting.
Oh yes, yes.
And they were still pissy with each other about it.
A day later, also tracks for siblings.
The students all posed for pictures and drank punch and had a great awkward high school time slow dancing. And at 10 p.m. the dance ended, and Mike and Debbie headed off to meet up with their friends at the private dining room they had rented with 10 other couples at a popular local restaurant in Belleville, Illinois called the Carriage House.
Oh, does the Carriage House still exist?
Uh-huh.
Holy shit!
Or
wow.
like it's his, I would assume it's the same building, but
Yeah.
it has the same name. Yeah.
Wow, that's so trippy. We need to go there.
Oh gosh. Also, going out to eat at 10 p.m.
Yeah,
Count me out.
No,
Even back in the day.
although I have wanted to hit up a Taco Bell, like, after a concert or something.
That
but that's
works.
different. You're not going to, like, a formal
Sit down.
sit-down dinner. Yeah.
No, ma'am. Mike and Debbie were a bit late arriving to the restaurant, though, because Mike actually got pulled over and given a ticket when a cop saw him doing donuts in the high school parking lot.
Oh, gosh.
They were determined to have a good time, though, and to not let this dampen their evening. And yes, Mike getting a ticket had sucked, but he also felt pretty good that the officer who pulled him over hadn't caught on that both he and Debbie were pretty buzzed on the beer and gin they'd smuggled into the prom. He probably like,
Yeah.
gets me. Cop's just like, okay, it's prom night, get gone.
Yeah, the cop probably was fully fucking aware. But also, it kind of gives you that moment of being like, because we all know where this is inevitably heading. This is a murder podcast, and Mike and Debbie are the main people in the story. But if that cop had, he either noticed and then was like, oh, whatever, they're fine. Or he didn't notice, but if he had, would have been the kind of cop that would have been like, y'all ain't driving anywhere. Like, call your parents.
And I like to think that way, but I still think had it gone that way,
yeah,
the piece of shit still would have found somebody else.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. Oh man, it's just those little moments of like, if something had just gone 1 degree,
It's like the
different
butterfly
in the
effect.
It
It fucks
really
with my
is.
mind. I'm just like, oh my gosh, if I hadn't have done this,
Yeah,
that wouldn't have happened.
you think about it way too much, and it starts to kind of unravel your reality. It's creepy. Like sometimes I even will think about like for example, the internship that I went on where I met my husband was in a state that I would never be caught
Ohio,
dead
guys.
in.
It was
Yeah, I have
Ohio.
no reason to go to Ohio ever, and I had like a list of different possible places I could have gone, and if I had just done anything else, my life would be.
Baby girl, you went to Ohio just to get stuck in Illinois.
I went to Ohio.
Which, praise the Lord.
Yes, praise
I'm so
the
glad
Lord.
You're here.
Yes. But man, again, try not
crazy.
to think about it too much, because then like
No, I can't.
yeah.
I can't. I'll go crazy.
Ooh. When Mike and Debbie showed up at the carriage house, Eddie was already there with his date, and Mike walked over to him, tossed the ticket he'd just gotten at Eddie, and good-naturedly said, "Hey, tell Mom you got a ticket." Eddie threw the ticket back at him and said, "Nuh-uh, that's your baby." And with this exchange that only 2 close siblings can have, the brothers knew they had unofficially made up. After dinner, Mike and Debbie and the rest of their friends left the restaurant and drove together to Debbie's friend Barb's house, there's Barb, so that the girls could change out of their formal prom dresses into comfy clothes, and Mike swapped out his formal tuxedo shoes for his favorite worn-in loafers. At around 1 a.m., Mike and Debbie hopped into separate cars, and everyone headed to the strip cuts situated about 5 miles outside of Mascoutah to party. And in case y'all are wondering what the fuck are strip cuts, these were abandoned and super deep trenches that had been gouged out of the earth to dig coal many, many years ago. And once the coal was extracted, those big gouges in the earth were flooded with water, and around it was like really big rocks, and it was kind of hilly and grassy, and it was a well-known like hangout hookup spot for young people, because adults were like, why would we go out there? And because it's in the Midwest and we don't have any like good bodies of water around,
Carlisle
especially around here. Yeah, Carlisle Lake.
The Mississippi.
Right. Oh God. They're probably like, oh, it's like going to the beach at night. Like that was their equivalent of a good time.
Bitch, you're ripping on my childhood.
I am. That lake is. I was afraid that I was gonna step on a needle when I went to that lake.
I was scared I was going to step on a dead body. 'cause I'm
Anybody local that we've got to listen to this podcast is like, they just got out of town or just talk shit about this
Hey.
Carlisle Lake.
I'm waiting for the day I get a boat or somebody I know gets a boat and I'll be on that lake again.
Oh, yeah.
Every fucking day.
I will eat every complaining word I've ever said and been on that lake with you as much as we can.
Yes, ma'am.
With a pocket knife in my waistband in case I get tangled up in.
Yes. Every time I went tubing on that lake, though, and I should have an award for how I hung on to those fucking tubes.
Oh my god.
Because I refused to get in that water. But if I touched that water, my fingers and toes curled so tight because I was like, nothing's going to get me. Nothing's going to nibble something. Like, no, I would literally just sit in a ball floating, waiting for them to circle back.
Oh my god.
Ugh. Anywho.
Now that we know what strip cuts are.
Not steak.
No.
The next few hours at the strip cuts were pretty uneventful. The girls grouped off separately, probably to talk shit about their dates. Probably. And everyone stood around joking and sipping beer, having a fun time on the warm and clear summer night. The school year was almost over, and for the seniors, this would be their last year to make prom night memories together. Around 2 a.m., Mike and Debbie were the first couple to leave the strip cuts. They were only about 5 miles from town, and Mike didn't have to be home until 3:30 a.m. What in the...
Yeah. God.
Debbie didn't even have a curfew and had plans to stay the night with her friend Tony. But he and Debbie were hoping to get a little time together, just the two of them, after a long evening of socializing with friends.
At around 4 a.m. the next morning, Mike's brother Eddie tiptoed up the front porch of the Morrisons' house, hoping to slip into the room he shared with their 6-year-old brother Joey. I like that name, Joey. That's really cute. Without waking up their mom so that she wouldn't know he was in an hour past curfew. But as soon as Eddie stepped into the living room, he heard his mom's voice floating down the hall from her bedroom. "Mike, is that you?" "No, it's only me," Eddie said. "Oh, I'm sorry, Eddie, but I had a bad dream about Mike. I dreamed he drove his car into a concrete wall. I think he might be hurt." And she'd been awake worrying ever since that terrible dream around 2 a.m.
Poor mama heart.
Yes, I feel so horrible for all of the times that, like, I know me and both of my siblings have given our mom a hard time for the next morning when she's like, "I can't fall asleep until I hear y'all coming, like, in the door."
Gosh.
And we never got home super late, nor did we didn't have a curfew because we were boring as fuck, but, like, we would get home from going to a movie or something at, like, around midnight,
Right.
and, you know, you think that you're like, "Oh, I'm sneaking in the house and nobody knows," but, like, no, I know that my mom was fully awake, being like, letting us have our freedom and not, like, calling us, but then worrying. And I was like, oh my gosh, I get it.
I've only spent 9 months pregnant, plus the 1 year Camden's been alive. But that's long enough for me to be like, I spent all that time keeping you alive.
Yep.
You're not allowed to just go out and die. Like, it's not allowed. Not allowed.
You're not allowed to leave my sight.
Nope.
If the retractable leash cannot extend to where you want to go, you will not be going.
Not today. Eddie reassured his mom that he was sure Mike was fine, and he'd seen him last at the carriage house with Debbie. He lay down in bed and struggled to fall asleep for hours, overwhelmed with a nagging feeling that something terrible had happened. At 7:30 a.m., he woke up to their mother frantically shaking his shoulder and saying, "Get up, Eddie, Mike's not home yet." She instructed him and his little sister, Cecilia, to go to the 8 o'clock mass while she stayed at home to wait for Mike. Sleep-deprived and hungover, Eddie stumbled the few blocks to church, still with a nagging feeling in his gut. But he reassured himself that when they got home, the family car would surely be parked in the driveway, and Mike and Debbie would probably be feeling pretty sheepish and hungover after drinking a little too much and falling asleep in the car. However, that was not the case.
It was now about 9 a.m., and Eddie, Anne, and Cecilia, who was actually Debbie's classmate and good friend, started making phone calls. One of Mike's classmates and their next-door neighbor, a girl named Mary Kay, told Anne that she'd heard Mike and Debbie were a part of the group that had headed out to the strip cuts after dinner. Mary Kay had a car, and Eddie and Cecilia immediately ran over to her house, and the three of them sped off towards the strip cuts to look for Mike and Debbie, while Anne stayed home to continue making calls and praying that Mike would pull into the driveway like nothing had happened. For the next few hours, Mary Kay, Eddie, and Cecilia drove over every country road around the strip cuts, along Jefferson Road between Mascoutah and Freeburg. And if y'all aren't from the Midwest and need a visual, picture farmhouses spread apart every mile or so, endless cornfields, and at this time of the year, if there was an early corn crop planted, it would already be pretty tall, and woods. The three searched every secluded area they knew of, until finally they spotted the '63 Plymouth Belvedere just off the road, with deep skid marks going for about 60 feet from where it had left the pavement. A tall crop of early corn flanked both sides of the road, and there was a farmhouse about 200 yards away where the car was stopped.
As they pulled up alongside the Plymouth, it was immediately apparent to Eddie, Cecilia, and Mary Kay that something was very, very wrong. Both doors of the Plymouth were flung wide open, and the keys were still in its ignition. Debbie's prom dress and corsage were laying on the back seat next to Mike's tuxedo, tie, and leathered shoes. But Mike and Debbie were nowhere in sight. If they were worried before, that was an understatement compared to now. Mary Kay got a hold of her father, who had grown up around the strip cuts and was also driving around looking for Mike and Debbie nearby. He flagged down the first police car he saw, driven by a state trooper named Dave Young. Dave immediately radioed a deputy who was closer to where Eddie and the girls were waiting by the Plymouth to head over, and the relief that Eddie felt when the deputy rolled up quickly turned to outrage when the deputy barely glanced into the Plymouth, shrugged, and said, "They probably ran off and got married."
Oh,
without their clothes?
God, right.
Interesting.
In the middle of a fucking cornfield, in the middle of nowhere. Oh. Eddie's indignation and efforts to point out that the car keys were still in the ignition and the doors were wide open, plus begging the deputy to check for fingerprints because he was sure that they had been taken, fell on completely deaf ears, and the deputy instructed Eddie to take the car home, telling him that they didn't need it for anything else. Oh my God. So, Eddie, being a 17-year-old, instructed to obey law enforcement, did as he was told. By this time, the news that Mike and Debbie had never made it home from the prom had spread like wildfire, and literal carloads of their classmates and neighbors spent the long, grueling day that remained combing every square foot of the area, and Eddie, Cecilia, and Mary Kay stuck together and kept searching as hard as they could, delirious with exhaustion, but finally were forced to call it a day once it became too dark to see. As soon as Eddie and Cecilia stepped back through their front door, they locked eyes with their mother as she hung up the phone. Completely calm and matter-of-fact, Anne said, "Eddie, they're dead. They're dead, and I have already forgiven whoever did it." The following morning, at 7:30 a.m., Chief Sergeant Morrison had just sat down at his desk when a messenger burst in and said he had an urgent call from the States. "Sergeant, catch the next flight out of here. Your son never made it home from the prom on Saturday." As hard of a man as he was, Sergeant Morrison deeply loved his children, and at these words his stomach turned to ice. "I have 2 sons who went to the prom. Which one is it, sir?" he gasped. "Well, I don't know."
You don't expect being in the military to receive a phone call from home.
Yeah.
And hearing news like that, and it's just like,
And he was in what was it? I think Thailand. He was on like other side of the world.
Gosh.
And you're 12 hours ahead
Also,
in
I'm like
Illinois.
time
Huh.
stupid. 69. I'm like, how do they call him?
Oh, yeah.
I'm stupid.
Well, it wasn't 1869.
Like, I'm literally like, wow, they're really advanced.
That's
so
hilarious.
stupid.
But not so advanced enough that his superior couldn't find out which son it was. And poor...
Yeah, before you
Poor
call
Sergeant
with news,
Morrison.
let's gather all the facts.
Yeah. Golly. At least they let him go home. Ugh.
Gosh.
Also, the mom just...
I think that's where I just, like, kind of, like, my brain snapped a little.
Like, that she just said it, and she was like, I've accepted. Also, her saying, I have already forgiven whoever did it. I mean...
And they were too stunned to speak.
Yeah. I am all for people doing whatever they need to do genuinely if it's what they want to do, to be able to, like, grieve and accept what has happened. And if giving someone forgiveness is what you need to do that, to have peace, then by all means. But if not forgiving is what brings you peace,
An eye for an eye,
do not forgive.
motherfuckers.
Yep.
So, on Monday, May 5th, at around 1:30 in the afternoon, a little Cessna plane hummed back and forth over its designated section of search grid. Just a few miles outside of Mascoutah, it hovered slowly over the Peabody mine and the surrounding dirt roads and farm fields around the strip cuts when the pilot, Earl de Morinville...
I'm going to say de Morinville so we don't say Earl de Moronville.
A weird-ass name.
De Moronville sounds like some shit that the Wilhelm brothers would say they were
Literally.
from De
We knew a
Moronville.
D on the more.
Sorry, Earl.
Sorry. But Earl spotted something bright white on the ground in the dense long grass near Jack's Run Road. Within minutes, law enforcement had descended on the site, and their worst fears were confirmed. Literally a few yards away from where Eddie, Cecilia, and Mary Kay had stopped searching the previous day,
Oh my God.
lay the lifeless bodies of Mike Morrison and Debbie Means. Mike was face down, wearing a bright white t-shirt, which is what Earl had seen from the Cessna, and his tuxedo trousers from the prom, with his feet resting in a small stream of water. It appeared that he had been shot 3 times in the back of the head and had several fresh bruises on his face. His hands were clutching the grass that was still rooted into the ground.
Oh, that's such a powerful image.
I know every murder that we'll ever describe, I'll say it's brutal, but that's just like, to shoot someone in the back of the fucking head.
Yeah. It's
3
really,
times.
Yeah. It screams cowardly.
Oh, 100%.
It screams super cowardly. Debbie was lying just a few yards away in the grass at the base of a slight incline. She was nude and covered in severe bruising and had been gagged with her own underwear. And on top of that, her mouth had been covered in white hospital tape. Her feet and hands were tied up together behind her back with clothesline, and more clothesline was wrapped tightly over the hospital tape around her head and repeatedly coiled around her throat. The coroner pronounced Mike and Debbie dead on the scene, and after a 4-hour autopsy back at St. Clair County, revealed Mike's cause of death to be the 2 small whole-caliber bullets and a fragment of a third that were found in Mike's skull, which all appeared to be fired at very close range. Debbie's cause of death was ruled as strangulation.
The news of Mike and Debbie's murder tore a deep, raw wound into the formerly innocent small town of Mascoutah, which at the time only held around 5,000 people. Mike's brother Eddie recalled years later that for days it was like the town was in shock. and friends of Debbie and Mike remembered students and teachers walked around Mascoutah High School like zombies. And no one did anything in class, not even the teachers. They all just kind of went through the motions of the day together in silence. Both Mike and Debbie's homes and yards were constantly flooded with their friends and teenagers. They would sit on the lawn and cry together. Incredibly, Mike's mom, Ann, was often the one holding Mike and Debbie's friends as they broke down and sobbed.
Oh, God.
Eddie stayed over for days with his friend Russ, unable to bear the pain of being at home without Mike. And the two of them would take turns smelling a sweater of Mike's that he had left in Russ's room when he'd been over hanging out just a few days before.
Oh,
Gosh, as much as we hate our fucking siblings, there's just like...
Ooh.
There's something within, like, hating your siblings so much that you just, like, the love is just, like, unmatched.
Oh, my God.
You can't start crying because I can't.
And then the thought that if I was smelling my sister's sweater, as I'm literally crying right now, I'd be like, that bitch stole my deodorant.
100%.
Or, is that my Glossier
perfume?
perfume?
No, I'd be going through Madison's closet like, that's my fucking shirt. It smells like her, but that's fine.
And the like...
No.
I know it's sexist of me, but like the girl,
Okay.
you know, you think of girls doing that and you're like, whatever, but like boys doing that.
Exactly what I was thinking. Like, it's just like, it's so
it just like
disheartening.
rips your heart out all the more because especially thinking that fucking time when they weren't allowed to show emotion, but that Eddie and Russ were having that experience together.
I'm glad that Eddie found comfort with Russ, like, in that, like...
Yes. And he actually writes in his book that he was able to grieve and get through those days because of his friends, because as much as he loved his mom, she was having to just fucking hold it together, and she was like putting up this strong face and not letting people see her grieve. But many years later, his sister would tell, I can't remember if it's his sister or if a friend of the family told him that Anne shared that even though, like, basically she never shed a tear in front of anyone, but at night, like when everyone went home, that it was for like years after Mike died that she cried herself to sleep every night. And I mean, how could you not? Like, I don't know how she didn't just completely... that woman is a fucking strong... I mean...
Yeah, I don't... Like, we'd have to have, like, 100-parter episode of us just explaining how the fuck we would do things and how we... Like, I just don't understand. And
I wouldn't do. I would be not functioning. From the limited knowledge I have of her, I immensely admire her. From the moment that the Cessna pilot spotted Mike's bright white shirt, local law enforcement was thrown into a murder investigation, the likes of which they had never experienced before. State troopers and county deputy sheriffs immediately sealed off all access roads and, surprise, surprise, wasted several precious days squabbling over who had the most jurisdiction rights. God, you give me strength. If there is not a bigger dick swinging problem than amongst law enforcement, like, I swear, like, people have died. I don't understand.
Like, why can't... I mean, I'm sure there's, like, actual reasons, like...
Yeah.
I don't know, but, like, can't y'all just put
like,
your fucking heads together?
Right, like, it should take a matter of hours, not days, you know, because, like, days...
Also, you already removed the car from the scene.
Oh,
you already botched
already
this,
fucked
like...
the crime scene. Yeah.
Sure, let's wait a fucking another week.
Oh my God. Yeah. Finally, 2 state troopers named Dave Young and Charlie Growl were assigned to the case in conjunction with the St. Clair County Sheriff's Office under the direction of its Chief Deputy Sheriff Rodriguez, and they threw themselves headlong into the investigation. Desperate to obtain any solid lead or viable suspect, Dave and Charlie logged an incredible amount of hours interviewing Mike and Debbie's classmates, friends, and neighbors in the surrounding area of the abduction and murder scene. They were so committed that the moment they were assigned to the case, Dave and Charlie worked non-stop for 3 days until finally they were forced to go home on the 4th day, and Dave slept for 24 straight hours. And while all of their initial questioning did not point straight to a viable suspect at first, they did uncover some very interesting information.
Mike and Eddie's good friend, Bruce Younger, came forward and told investigators that he'd had a bizarre and terrifying encounter on prom night, literally minutes after Mike and Debbie had left together in the 63 Plymouth from the strip cuts. He had left to take his girlfriend Barb home around 2 a.m., and at 2:15, he and Barb were kissing goodbye on her front porch, which was set about 100 feet back from the road, when they both heard what everyone at Mascoutah High knew as the sound of Mike's car approaching, because it had a broken muffler and roared unusually loudly if you barely tapped the gas. Now that's everybody in their fucking brother's truck.
Like, truly.
Ugh. Before they'd even seen the car, Bruce said, "There goes Mike," and sure enough, a few seconds later, he and Barb both looked and saw the 63 Plymouth heading down the road, with another car that he didn't recognize following close enough behind them that both Bruce and Barb assumed that it must be another couple that they were partying with, that they were all heading back to the base together.
Oh. A few minutes later, Bruce left to head home, driving in the same direction that Mike and Debbie had been when they'd passed Barb's house. All of a sudden, an oncoming car roared out of the darkness, barreling wildly down the middle of the road so fast that Bruce had to swerve to avoid a head-on collision. Heart pounding and adrenaline surging, Bruce kept driving, and about a mile later his grip tightened on the steering wheel when he noticed red taillights just ahead and off to the side of the road. But since they didn't move as he approached, he assumed it was just a piece of farm equipment. But it wasn't.
Ugh.
So he literally...
He saw, like, everything, basically.
he saw their car. Like, he passed Mike's car. That had to be what was pulled off to the side of the road.
Almost immediately following what Bruce told law enforcement, another friend of Mike spilled out an almost unbelievable story to Dave and Charlie, which Mike's brother Eddie would recount many years later. What follows is an excerpt in Bruce's own words. "As I remember, after leaving my girlfriend in Belleville, I stopped off to grab a quick pizza to have on my way home that night. I drove out into the country towards home and was about a mile south of Route 177. As I crossed over the little bridge, then made the sharp left turn following the roadway, I saw a car off to my left with the front tires in the ditch. I knew right away it was Mike's car. It being prom night, I figured he probably had too much to drink and turned too early for the bridge, ending up in the ditch. Making that assessment, I figured Mike wasn't aware he could have just driven the car back out onto the road as the ditch was pretty shallow. I knew he had a good sense of humor, so I thought it would be a hoot to just drive it out and leave. It would be a heck of a joke. Oh my goodness.
Oh my
So
gosh.
cute. I backed the car out of the ditch and parked it parallel with the road a few feet off the shoulder. I figured when Mike returned with his friends and found the car on the side of the road, after the shock wore off, they'd all get a good chuckle. I hopped back in my car and headed home, having absolutely no idea what I just left behind was a crime scene."
Oh my God. Holy shit.
And it's one of those... Why would you think? Why would you even...
You wouldn't even think
be like,
that. Like, you'd have no
He
reason
was
to
drunk.
think that.
What a dumbass.
Oh, dumbass. Yeah, that's exactly what was going through his mind. Oh, man. And this happened a few days later, but apparently, and he was very quickly cleared, Bruce was, but there was a couple of days after he came forward and told the story that law enforcement leaned really, really hard on him because that sounds, it could sound a little sus, and apparently he was so destroyed when he realized what was going on that when they let him out after they questioned him for like hours, he ran to the Morrison's house and was like sobbing and ran to Mike's parents and was like,
Oh, God.
I didn't do it. Like I would never do anything to hurt Mike. Like, and he told them everything that like they've been questioning me and like all of that stuff. And I was just like, again, that hurt my heart because, and then immediately I was just like, well, obviously he didn't do it because that, meanwhile, crazy psychopaths do that all the time. But I just see these like kids in my mind, like, you know, I'm now twice the age of these little boys and having almost twice that age. I'm not quite there.
I was
but
like, I'm doing the math. I'm like, wait, hold on.
Okay, I'm not quite there, but I feel like it. And they just seem so young and innocent.
Babies.
And that just, it just hurts
and to
your
have
heart.
something so traumatic happen.
And that town was so fucking tight-knit. Like, it is such an example of everybody knowing everybody. Like, the man who ran the morgue that had to go pick up Mike and Debbie and take them to prepare their bodies for the funeral, one of Mike's classmates was his son and demanded that his dad let him ride with him to go get their bodies so that he could help.
I wonder if that's the mall funeral home
it's
because
very
that's
possible.
the one that I've been to a lot.
Oh man, it's very possible, but like it just shows you how deeply connected all of those people were with one another. And if I know I was talking shit on law enforcement, and if that's the reason why it took so long for them to get jurisdiction of this case, because they were like, we are not going to back down and hand it over to the big guys because like these are our people. I get it. And like if it, yeah, I don't know if that's what happened, but just based off of the things we know about the people and the troopers that then didn't sleep for fucking 3 days or whatever trying to solve the case the minute they got it. People just don't do that kind of shit anymore. Like, well, that's
even just in these small towns, it's like we're just a hop skipping away from St. Louis. That's where the stuff goes down, not these small towns over here. Right. Even now.
Yeah.
So especially back then. It's like it's not what you're prepared for, nor is it something you're equipped to truly handle.
No, not at all. And now we're going to take a bit of a I don't know, gear shift, road change. I don't even know. My brain is fried at this point. But on Monday morning, May 5th, 1969, so we're now 2 days after prom, a man named Marshall Wayne Stouffer placed a new water heater part for the mobile home he was servicing on the checkout counter at the Park and Shop grocery store in O'Fallon, Illinois. The owner, named Helen Wambacher, was startled when she looked up and saw that Marshall Stouffer's lip was bloody and swollen from a gnarly cut. His knuckles were banged up, and his face was covered in deep scratches and gashes. Helen asked him what happened, to which Marshall Stouffer replied, "A water heater blew up on me." When Marshall arrived a little bit later where he worked at Scott Mobile Home Sales, his co-worker, Bill Yao, also noticed Marshall's battered face and said, "What the hell happened to you?" Marshall said, "I fell in a briar patch and got all scratched up." Bill was no bullshitter and immediately said, that's no briar patch scratches." Oh my God, this makes me feel unwell. "That's no briar patch scratches. You must have had a hot date over the weekend." Okay, let's get feisty.
I just want to punch people every time we read these.
Oh, no.
Remember at the very beginning of the episode when we told you about the shaken up 18-year-old who saw the headline about Mike and Debbie's murder in the paper and then gave East St. Louis law enforcement a harrowing tale about he and a date being abducted at gunpoint? Well, later that very same morning, the St. Clair County Sheriff's Office answered the phone and an anonymous man's voice spoke the following bone-chilling words. Quote, "I am the one who killed them, and I will do it again. I was bit around the mouth area." Unquote.
Weird thing to close with.
Like some weird-ass people out there.
The same time, just across town at 9 a.m., so this is like a little triangle of events happening within like a 30-mile radius at like the same time. Just across town at 9 a.m., Debbie's mother walked to her mailbox and pulled out an unsealed envelope addressed "The Murdered Girl's Mother." The envelope contained a handwritten letter and several types of identification cards, all of which belonged to the same name, Mike Morrison. And that is where we are going to end part 1 of our coverage of the 1969 Mascoutah prom night murders. We are going to be wrapping it up in part 2 next week. And yeah, that's about the gist of it.
Ugh,
I think this has been the first case that I've actually cried while we were recording.
I've definitely cut myself out. No, I think I've cut us out, like our crying out of song.
Oh, yeah.
I do.
I did cry during Sierra jogging.
Yes.
Yeah, that one destroyed me. And I cried during Juliana Kupke when she was looking for her mom in the... Oh, fuck.
It's so...
Never mind, we've cried.
Yeah, bitch, just keep naming them. Because there was one in Pee-wee's last time.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God.
It's just so bizarre for me to grow up one town adjacent from Mascoutah.
Yeah.
Again, my parents, my sister work on Scott Air Force Base.
So you...
I know all...
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird to be like, I know what you're talking about. I know what
Yeah.
Like, it's so easy, or it's so weird to, like, sit and recount these stories. Be like, oh, okay, like, Florida.
Yeah.
We all know Florida, but, like, you know, but, like, to have the picture in my brain.
And you can see yourself driving through the places because you have, and yeah.
Ugh.
I had never heard of this case before. We actually had, thank you, shout out to Jeff, who sent this to us in a email. Jeff is also a local person and said that his dad used to talk about this case a lot when he was a kid. He was like,
good old bedtime story.
Yeah. But incredibly just fascinating from a crime story standpoint. And we always like to talk about how part of what draws us to these stories is understanding the relationship dynamics of just everyone involved, whether it be the victims themselves, the victims and their families, law enforcement, the perpetrator, and how it all is woven together in this bizarre dark web. And to be able to grieve the ugly things that happen, but also be moved by the beautiful ways that people support one another and come
Right.
together and seek justice. And that is, I think, what makes these small town cases so memorable, is there is really nothing like the community of a small town. And small town community can be incredibly toxic because everybody knows everybody's business and whatnot, but in this case we see how it can be such a good thing in the darkest, most horrific of times. So yeah. And thank you so much again to the fantastic book Bad Moon Rising by Ed Morrison with Mindy Morrison. Y'all can order this on Amazon, and I highly, highly recommend it because it is a fascinating, very well written read, and you get a lot of first-hand, literally like first-person account information in real time because Eddie was there for quite a lot of this. So, yeah.
And there are pictures for people like me.
Yes,
who
yes. There
cannot read books like
Yes.
this necessarily. Like, my attention span just doesn't last. But the
Yep.
pictures are there, maps, and
Oh my gosh, yes. And there are far more pictures than we will share on our Instagram, but we will. And some of them I don't think we will, just out of respect for the family, because it does include crime scene photos. But if you want to support this author and buy the book, which, if you want to support a local author, buy Ed Morrison's book. So is there anything else, Caitlin? We don't need to talk about what our next case will be because we'll be bringing you part 2 of this one next week. No more announcements, no more things like that. We're about to be in spooky season, so that's exciting.
I'm going to convince Genevieve to go to a haunted house.
Oh my god.
And a real haunted house.
Aren't there those at the Fright Fest?
Baby girl.
Oh
for
no.
kiddos.
Oh no.
We need the real ones.
I'll have to wear an adult diaper. I'll have to chug-a-lug whiskey at the door and wear an adult diaper.
And I'm sorry, but I will laugh in your expense.
God.
I'm so sorry.
You will. I will. Yeah. I will need to have Jacob on one side, Josh on one side, Sam on the other. If Caitlin's in the back, you'll probably just push me into the arms of whatever little demon is behind the door.
You know what, Genevieve? You live on a farm where we both saw it. I saw a black figure.
Oh.
You saw a freaking creepy ghost, girl.
I did, but I believe that she's an ambivalent, a happy,
I don't know what
a
the
friendly.
fuck I saw. I didn't like it, though.
Oh, God.
I didn't like it. We can talk about that on a Friday Night Fright episode.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do, because we need to give y'all another one of those. As it happens, it is really difficult to consistently put out 2 episodes a week and be a full-time stay-at-home parents.
Oh, fuck.
Imagine that.
Crazy.
But I think we're doing pretty good with one nice chunky episode a week. So,
And nice and thick.
So if you get a Friday Night Frights one, you'll take it and you'll like it.
You blessed.
That's right. Blessed and distressed.
Blessed and stressed.
Blessed and stressed.
Blessed, stressed, distressed.
What was the other thing I said as we were recording? I can't remember.
The dropping F-bombs like...
Oh, yeah, like birdseed at a wedding.
Fuck thee. Fuck.
They say you're not supposed to do that anymore. Or was that rice? It's one of those that you're not supposed to throw at a wedding because it's actually bad for birds. It must be rice.
It's gotta be rice.
Yeah, because they eat it and it expands in their
I was about to
stomach
say
or
probably
something.
I can't imagine birdseed is bad for birds.
Yeah. I don't...
Which circles back, we used to go feed the ducks at the Mascoutah pond next to the VFW. We would feed them bread and then learn that, like, you can't
You're
feed
not supposed to
ducks
do that.
or bread.
Yeah. I don't think anybody like birdseed is not a thing people do anymore at weddings now. It's like sparklers, bubbles,
Honestly,
all
like,
of that cutesy shit.
I've never been to a wedding. I honestly, like, I've never heard of birdseed at a wedding. I've heard of rice.
I think that must be, maybe it's a southern thing.
Maybe.
Because when I was a kid, there were multiple weddings I went to where we had these little, we were given little like mesh baggies that were like tied with a ribbon of bird seed, and then when they would come out, you would throw.
I mean,
that.
it makes sense. Like, you're throwing up something that, you know.
Just think about how fucking annoying getting bird seed like down your boobs of a wedding dress would be. I would not.
A little snickety snack for later as your groom's undressing you.
Then it needs to be something better than bird seed, like Captain Crunch or something.
Oh, oops, all berries.
Fruity Pebbles. Yeah. Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
If you can't tell, we're a little brain dead, so we're gonna end it.
We're gonna end it. Catch you back next week.
Bye.
Bye.